Blue Dog Films presents Paid to Dream with Charles Dennis.
Hello, this is Charles Dennis with another vintage Paid to Dream audio interview. Nancy Allen was the girl next door. That is, if she was dating RoboCop. She had an amazing career in several Brian De Palma movies, and her absence from the screen is a sad loss for us all. Here's Nancy Allen talking about those movies.
Good morning, Charles.
Walking the dog. It is our preoccupation in life, isn't it?
Yes, and if I'm really honest, I was out of coffee. I had to go to Starbucks, too.
Oh, boy.
Even the dog had to wait for that.
Mr. President, they're waiting for you. I'm sorry, I have to walk the dog. You know, they take over. What sort of dog do you have? I've not met your dog.
He's really cute. He's half Jack Russell and half Chihuahua.
Ah.
And one would think he'd be really crazy, but he's not. He's very kind of even-tempered. And
I know. We have a rat terrier named Julius, and he's just, they should meet. They could have a good time
about
together.
The same size, absolutely.
Right, and they've got similar DNA somewhere along the line. Well, we're here today to talk about a lot of things, but also the fact that mainly that the Criterion Collection is putting out the Blu-ray of Blowout, which I call the little movie that could, because years later it is resurfaced after, to everyone's surprise, not doing well on its initial release. Did you know that it's one of Quentin Tarantino's 3 favorite movies?
I did know that. Yes, I did, and also that it is a phenomenon in France. The French are crazy for this film.
Oh, it's like Jean-Paul Sartre time, isn't it? It's this fatalistic. I mean, it's perfect for the French.
It really is. It really is.
Well, tell us a little about RoboCop and sorry, we're all over the map here.
That's
about
okay.
Blowout.
Well, I think it's a amazing film. I really think it's a near perfect movie. That's my opinion. It's a fantastic cast, really tight script. It's shot magnificently by Vilmos Zsigmond, and I think that it's a film that has, like you said, has really come into its own over time, and I believe that's true because it was released poorly. It wasn't released appropriately at the time that we shot it, and Brian knew that, and it was very difficult. So, but at least, good films just don't go away.
What I find,
Chinatown was very unsuccessful at the box office.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was not. No, I didn't either. One assumed, because I thought it was one of the most amazing films I've ever seen. Of course, I love dark, film noir, that type of. I just like dark pieces. But yeah, so it's interesting.
Well, what I find fascinating, the overview of American films in the last half century, is that the films that didn't do well or basically vanished on their initial releases are the ones years later that you look at the other film that year, the ones that people ran to, flock to, and they're forgotten. I mean, to me, the 2 great films of the 50s are The Night of the Hunter and Sweet Smell of Success, both of which, just tanked.
Yeah, and they are amazing films, both of them. And
they're just so far ahead of their times, and again, there's a reason that Blowout's on the Criterion Collection, because this company is just amazing about finding the great movies. And
I know. I didn't know anything about them until I did the interview for the Blu-ray, and then when I heard about what they do and the kind of films they have and the catalog they have, I was blown away. Really blown away.
I've been involved with them off and on now for about 15 years, and it just came out of, there used to be a place on Ventura Boulevard called Dave's Laserdisc, and I walked in there one day, and there was this crowd of people. It was Criterion was having an event at the store, and I got to talking to them, and I said, well, I'm, in addition to being a writer and director, actor, I'm also a film historian. Next thing I knew, I was doing liner notes for them.
That's great.
Found it out, and here we are.
Mm-hmm.
So you grew up in Yonkers.
I did. Well, I was actually, when I was born, we lived in the Bronx till I was 10 years old. And then we moved to Yonkers at that point.
And your daddy was a policeman?
He was. He was a New York City cop. He retired as a lieutenant in 1969, right around the time of the Knapp Commission. Maybe he was getting out in the nick of time. I don't know. Maybe he knew something I didn't know.
Did you ever go to work with him?
Well, I used to go, I liked to call and ask for Lieutenant Allen. As a little girl, I loved that. And what I did was I would go on his day offs and we'd do a little rounds through whatever precinct he was in, and we'd stop in and, but to sit there, no. I didn't. Mm-mm.
And was he from a police family, or was he just a one-off?
No, not at all. My father actually went to and graduated NYU Law School, and he was supposed to be an attorney, and he failed the bar the first time, and then he just never pursued it again. He got involved, was around wartime, and he got involved. His mom was very, very ill. In fact, she'd become paralyzed, and so he really, at that time, he needed to get a job in civil service where you were guaranteed a living and an ability to care for your family. So that's how he ended up there. And as the story goes, my mother always said he was never meant to be an attorney. That was his mother's idea. So, who knows at this point.
And your mother got you into dancing when you were little.
Yeah, when I was 4, because I was very shy and very attached to her, and she wanted me to have something that was, that would make me feel a little more independent and like that, and I loved it. And
from the first class?
I don't remember the first class. I remember looking for her in the beginning, like, where's my mommy? But after that, I kept asking for more and more classes to the point where I was taking at least a class a day, and then sometimes 2. So, and all kinds of dancing, ballet, modern, tap, jazz, everything. So I really feel like it was it was like a moving meditation for me. I didn't even know it at the time, but it really would just take me away, take me into whatever place that I could just have my imagination go.
And then you went to high school of performing arts?
As a dance major.
Wow.
And found out very quickly that although I loved dancing, that I didn't have the discipline or the passion, the obsession that most dancers do have.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's kind of what that was good for.
And who else was in class with you at high school?
Well, Christian, oh God, what is his name? I want to say Christian Jutner. There's a young man who became a very famous, one of the most famous ballet dancers in, I can't think of his name right now, but Ben Vereen was a couple of classes ahead. He was, I think, a junior when I was there, and it was this young man who was terrible. He was always just getting yelled at by the teachers because he was kind of like a screw-up, and he wasn't really that good of a dancer. And then he became this magnificent ballet dancer at one of the biggest companies in New York. So I wish I could think of his name right now, but I can't.
It'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Like those
in the middle of the night, like a
That's
dream.
Right. Charles, listen, I'm sorry to wake you up, but I remembered his name. Who is he? Who's this? And then you did a movie with Whispering Bill Anderson.
Yes, I did. I'm trying to know which movie.
Money in My Pocket. I guess you were 12 or something.
You know what? I never made that movie. That's on my credits. I never made that movie.
Oh, that's wild. You mean there's another Nancy Allen?
No, I think it's a miss. There's a couple of things that are on my IMDb that are incorrect. That would be one of them.
We'll get that straightened out immediately.
I would love to. I can't figure that out. But I didn't make a movie until
Last Detail?
The Last Detail, and I actually did a low-budget film in New York that I don't even know what it's called. It was released, and I was murdered in that. I had a scene in a car, and then the next thing you saw were my legs in the bushes. So I was a chatty hitchhiker. But yeah, no, I didn't. I worked in commercials from the time I was 15 until I was in my mid-20s, and it was at that time in New York that I was cast in The Last Detail, and then this other.
So you went up to Toronto to do that?
I did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I had been living in England for a couple of years, and I came back to Toronto briefly in, I guess it was 1972, mm-hmm. and I'd heard that Jack Nicholson was shooting a movie in town.
Yeah.
How was that experience?
Well, it was very interesting. I had met Hal Ashby when they were passing through and casting in New York, and I originally received a call from my agent that said, "Oh, you've been cast in The Last Detail." I didn't read; I just met with him, mm-hmm. and then they sent me the script, and it was actually the part that Carol Kane ended up playing, the hooker.
Right.
And I read it, and I thought, I can't do this. And I called my agent, and they said, well, Lynn Stallmaster wants to talk to you. So I talked to him. I said, I'm very grateful, but I don't think I can act and be naked at the same time.
Chew gum, yes, but not naked.
Not naked. Anyway, of course, I changed my mind on that a few years later, but then they called a few days later and said, well, Hal would like you to do something in the film. And that's when I was cast in that party scene where each of the sailors paired off with one of the actresses that was there. And, I was there with Jack, and it was actually, I was terrified. Not terrified of him, but it was just, to me, it was like, it was like a holy setting, movies. This is something that I've been watching films since I was a little girl over and over and over again, and here I was, and it was such a different atmosphere than commercials. There were no clients running around, no people with suits. It was a really purely creative atmosphere, and I was just in awe and terrified. So I'm supposed to be bored with him and, really uninterested and dislike him. And the fact is, I can only say that I was probably frozen in fear, and it worked quite well for the character. I was so stiff, but we did this one improvisation, and Hal said, oh, that's great, and for some reason that frightened me more. But that's what really kind of ignited me and just gave me the bug to want to make movies. And it was only a couple of years later, and I thought, you know what, I don't think there's not one commercial, there's nothing more I can sell. I've sold it all. I think I'm done. I'm going to pack up and go to Hollywood. So, but it was what an introduction. I mean, to start in a film like that and to watch someone like Jack Nicholson work, and it was a great experience.
And you came out here, and it took a little while till you got your next picture.
Well, I came out here in September of '75, and by November I said, you know what, this isn't working out. I'm going to be going back because at least I know I can work there. I didn't know that you didn't. I mean, I didn't know that it actually took some time, but I read for Carrie right before Thanksgiving, and they screen tested me. I had run into actually a casting director who had cast me. She worked for Horn Greiner in New York, which is a big commercial director and production company, and I was coming out of the steam room at that time the Beverly Hills Health Club for Women, planning to go back to New York, and she said, is that Nancy? Is that Nancy Allen? I said, yes. It was Harriet Hellberg who cast Carrie, and she said, I'm casting this film, and asked me who my agent was, and I told her, and she said, I called. He said he didn't have anyone that was right for it, and she said, well, you know what, come pick up the script over in Culver City, and you can read. I was the last person of the last day to read, and I stayed up all night reading the script, reading the book, making notes, writing a biography of the character.
Wow.
It wasn't even about getting the part. It was really about being seen, because I'd been here for 2 months and I hadn't seen or done anything, and I just wanted to.
Did you have an agent when you came out here?
I had an agent, and he wasn't doing anything. He kept saying, I'm out in the field. I said, well, don't you need pictures?
I love that out in the field. I hadn't heard that one in years. Images of agents wearing these pith helmets or, GI helmets, and they're out there. They go, wait, there's a studio open. I'm going in. I got Nancy Allen's. Look, I got her 8x10. God damn it.
Those were the days when they would literally walk you in to the
studio.
Oh,
yeah, I know.
Which was kind of great. I mean, and he took me over a couple places, but he was preoccupied with another actress at the time, a woman by the name of Randy Oakes, who I knew from New York. She was a model, and she was going out with Joe Namath, and he thought this was his big investment. So he
didn't she marry Jonathan Axelrod?
I don't know. That sounds like that could be right.
That sounds. I think I met. Yeah.
But she was a great girl, and anyway, so I went over there, and they were casting, and the reading was, Brian was actually staying in a place, an apartment on Fountain Avenue, and when I got there was a lineup of people, guys, girls, everybody had their scripts. We were sitting in the hall, sitting on the stairs, sitting outside, everyone was paired off, and like I said, I was the last person of the last day, and for some reason, I met Hal Ashby, and he seemed older, and so many of the commercial directors were older, so I figured film directors were really old. So when he came into the room, he was, this is a man in his mid-30s, like 35, I think, at the time, and I thought, that's the director? Oh, my goodness. And we read, and I heard him laugh, and I thought, is that good? I wasn't sure if that was good or not. And left there and drove home and realized I'd left my notes. I thought, oh, my God, I'm so embarrassed with that biography. But by the time I got home, there was a message on my machine saying, we're going to screen test you.
Wow.
So it was really amazing. So I had my bags packed to leave, and it was the only audition I had into the 2 months that I had been here. And there it was. It was kind of amazing. So,
well, what's amazing is for people to realize what a great actress you are, because you are the dearest, sweetest lady, and what a bitch you played. and but even still, you, the nice Nancy Allen, goes that Chris was misunderstood.
Well, the funny thing about that is that Paul Monash, there was a big fight. He didn't want to cast me. He said, she's too nice. No one could believe her as being that nasty. And, it took a few months for them to really settle on me. So I do feel proud of that character and that performance. And it was an amazing time and great cast and very exciting.
And there you were in the shower. You finally
yes,
what Hal Ashby couldn't get,
Yes. Well,
and how did Amy Irving evade taking her clothes off?
Oh, she had a mental breakdown on the stage. Like, I can't. And and the thing of it is I had this great shot of all of us sitting outside in our robes, like huddled on the stairs, while they were in there shooting Sissy for like 6 hours. And what Brian had said to all of us, he says, it's going to be a lot of, they blew in the smoke, the fog. He says, it's going to be very beautiful. You'll see an arm here, a leg there. I thought, okay, an arm here, a leg there. I can deal with that. And then the next day, there were open dailies at that time, so we all went, and when you see yourself, like, wow, that's not an arm there. That's like the full enchilada right in front of you, But it was so beautiful. It really was.
Oh, I remember all that steam. And it was in slow motion, too, I think.
Yes, slow motion, absolutely.
Yeah,
and in the room, it was only Brian, and at that time it was Isadora Mankowski, who was the DP, and it was just those two because there was no sound. And, it was, everyone was a little stunned, but I was not upset about it because I did think it was quite beautiful, and I was okay with it.
And that bucket of pig's blood, oh my God.
Yeah, that's a horrible scene, and we shot at I think it's still there actually, downtown Los Angeles. It's a slaughterhouse, and they have all those pigs. That was not production. That was all painted on the side of the building, and we were shooting there in the pouring rain, and then they broke for dinner, and they were going to serve us like sausages and hot dogs. I said, I don't think so. John and Michael Talbot and I went out, and I think we had pancakes somewhere. It's like, are you kidding? I'm not going to eat that now. It's horrible.
A world of illusion.
Yes, yes.
Looking at I Want to Hold Your Hand again,
Mm-hmm.
the story of these 4 girls from Jersey who go in to see the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Right.
I realize that the real story that someone should make is the story of the 4 of you who played these girls, because it's amazing and tragic. I mean,
yeah.
You got off lucky, I guess, and I suppose Paul Newman's daughter.
She never did another film. I mean, this was an aberration for her. I think she's sort of gone on with her life, and I think she's involved with foundations and things like that. I haven't seen her in many, many years.
But Teresa Saldana, I mean, I went, oh my God.
Oh, horrible. Absolutely horrible. And of course, Dear Wendy,
And Dear Wendy, I know.
Yeah.
And I just think there's a documentary in itself to be made.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you ever see Teresa Saldana again after that? Or?
Oh yeah, sure. I saw her. Well, she was on the commish for years, and I guest starred. It was the first time I'd ever done. Well, no, maybe I'd done Outer Limits, but I went up to guest star on that show with her and oh God, what's his name? Michael. I'm just blanking on him. Who did the commish? Anyways, great actor from the
Chiklis.
Yes, Michael Chiklis. Thank you. So I saw her there, and we kind of hooked up and became friendly for a few years and hung out together. And I think I want to say the last time I saw her was we had a reunion dinner at Cas del Sol over near the studio.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, Stephen was there, and Bob and Sean Daniels, and it was most of us, Wendy, Teresa, myself, Mark McClure. Susan was not there, and Bobby DeCicco had long moved back east. But I think that's the last time I saw her, and that was, oh my God, it's got to be more than 10 years ago.
Yeah. It's a sweet little movie.
Oh, it's just fabulous film.
And it's hard to believe that Zemeckis was on a short leash, that they had to get Spielberg to say that he would step in if this guy couldn't pull it off.
Well, and it's not true. That actually isn't true. It's true in a sense that he was executive producer, but how I first heard of the script was it was sent to Brian. And he read it. I can remember him reading this. He says, "This is really good. It's really funny. There's a great part in here. There's some really good parts in here that you could play." And then I remember him. I seem to recall him talking to Steve, and he said, "This is not for me, but I think the guy who wrote this, he should direct it. It's all there. It's right there." And I think the only way that they could get it done was for Stephen to sign on as executive producer, because Bob hadn't done a feature. But I have to tell you, there was no question that he
knew his stuff.
Oh, he directed this. Oh no,
yeah.
I mean, you knew right away that this was going to be an important director. You can just sense it, the way he knew what he was doing. And in fact, Stephen did some of the crowd shots. He directed some of the stuff with them outside the plaza and the girls screaming. But Bob definitely directed that film.
And tell us a little about home movies, because it's a fascinating. I don't think anyone's ever done anything like that since.
Well, home movies grew out of a conversation. I mean, back in the dark ages, in the 70s, it was a great time, really amazing time for filmmakers and movies and all of that. And Brian and Stephen and George, I'm trying to think if Marty was there, I can't remember, and they were just all sitting around talking like, because they were all like young filmmakers, like little guerrilla filmmakers out there making. Said, where are all these people? What's happening? Why aren't these kids coming? Why aren't they making movies? And the idea was that Brian was going to teach this class on how to make a low-budget film, and they would pull these film students and teach them how to do this so that they could bring the next group of people up. And they all invested their money. They were investors, and then Kirk Douglas, who had just finished The Fury, I guess it was, with Brian, he wanted to be involved, and he was an investor. And it started by, I think Brian went to Sarah Lawrence, where he'd done his graduate work, and just started pulling some kids and created this class. And originally the idea was that they would write and direct. They'd all have a chance to direct it. But as we went on, Brian took over more with the directing. I mean, there were 2 student writers that ultimately ended up writing most of the script, which was Steve LeMay and Gloria Norris. But it was all based on this story that Brian put forth, and it was, pretty close to his experience of his parents getting divorced, and him chronicling it and getting the evidence and taking pictures of his father and the nurse. And nobody knew this at the time. And in fact, Keith Gordon said, "Well, nobody would do this." And I'm just sitting there thinking, "Oh, yes, they would." But I couldn't say anything to him. So that's how it got started, and it was a great experience.